Jersey, Mr. Pascrell, to inquire.
Good morning, Secretary Yellen. It's nice to see you back. Ways and Means Committee. In March, I wrote to you suggesting the department issue regulations on irrevocable grantor trust to limit rampant abuse of the infamous stepped-up basis loophole. And we talked a good game about tax reform, and we didn't do anything, really. We tried. I appreciate your response and your willingness to work on the issue. This loophole is used by some of the wealthiest Americans as a way to avoid paying their fair share. And we're defining it. I think both sides are zeroing in on that, really. We speak more of it than they do. Can you tell me specifically how and when the Treasury Department and the Internal Revenue Service will implement their guidance?
We are working very hard on that, and
yeah, I heard that
promise
before, but
it will
when?
be very soon, very soon.
Thank you. The tax gap is $1 trillion a year, according to the IRS. At a recent Oversight Subcommittee hearing, the GAO reported audit rates have dropped significantly more for those incomes over $200,000 than the rest of the population. How will tax compliance improve with the resources requested in the budget for the IRS? Just 10% of the calls the IRS received this year were answered by an assistant. That's another story, the IRS. But I'm talking, that's under your jurisdiction. But I want to know, are we requesting enough people that can answer folks' questions? 10% is not a good grade.
It's a bad grade, and
it stinks.
It's awful, and it reflects the fact that the IRS is hugely under-resourced. They have essentially the same number of employees that they had 40 years ago.
Right.
And they just don't have the resources to enforce the tax code, to go after high-income taxpayers who are responsible for the lion's share of that tax gap that you
I believe our economy, Madam Secretary, is going strong with signs of enduring health. Inflation is perhaps the top concern, should be. How do you balance urgency to lower inflation with care to preserve our strong economy? The Fed chairman, Mr. Powell, recently made some disturbing remarks to me. He publicly proclaimed he'd like to raise the unemployment rate and lower workers' wages to fight inflation. I have that interview right here. I mean, has he lost his mind or what? And do you agree with this?
Well, let me say, I'm not going to comment on the Federal Reserve. They have a primary role in bringing inflation down, and it's up to them how they go about doing it. But my own goal would be to keep the economy operating in the neighborhood of full employment while bringing inflation down. We have, over the last year and a half, made remarkable progress in terms of recovery in the labor market. As Chair Neal pointed out, there are 2 vacancies for every unemployed worker, about the strongest labor market we've seen in the post-war period, and we want to keep it that way while taking steps to bring inflation down. And complementing what the Fed does, I think we can look to somewhat more deficit reduction as a complementary measure, and try to pass legislation that would address some of the most burdensome costs that fall on households, whether it's for taking care of children or prescription drugs or for health care premiums.
I must
Thank
yield
the
back,
gentleman.
Madam Secretary, but it seems that the antidote is worse than the poison here we're trying to correct.
Thank the gentleman.
Thank you.
Let me recognize